we've entered this market to scale it, and what we were encountering early stages was every project wanted to procure differently. Every project had different T&Cs, and we worked on a project, didn't we, Adri? I think it's 2 years on. I think we're still looking at the T&Cs, and that just isn't scalable. You can't, and I'm sure Roy gets exactly the same. It bounces from one project to the next project to the other project. So we've actually put a lot of time and effort into now saying, what are the risks? How can we manage the risks? And how can we, distribute those equally across the supply chain? So we've come to a much more simplified terms and conditions document, with warranties against the material, and it's in there so that we can sell it in a standardized way. And what we want to do is make sure that there's as little friction as possible so that reusable steel is just considered as a steel product. Exactly what was said earlier. So it's moving away from this, it's too difficult, it's a niche product. There has to be a scalable business model to deliver that, and that includes risk and procurement.
Just to pick up a point on terms and conditions, Bill mentioned his terms and conditions. I'm very au fait with them, and I've traded with Roy, and just want to share with the audience really that their terms and conditions aren't any different to the terms and conditions that we have from ArcelorMittal or a stockist supplier in the UK, and the material's no different either. And the reality is that we get quality issues very rarely, but we do get quality issues with new materials. The good news is it normally, ordinarily, always comes out in the fabrication process. If you've got a problem with a piece of steel, when you put some heat to it, it will show you it's got a problem, and then we reject it and it gets replaced, which will be exactly the same with these guys. Secondary issue that they may not have 1 million tons of that to replace it with, but again, if you're talking a one piece, it shouldn't be the end of the world to replace it with new if you have to. So it's all possible. It's not difficult. The thing is that we're perceiving risks and we're trying to move risks. They either shouldn't be there or we don't need it to be there to enable us to do what we want to do.
Yeah. I think, Dan, that's a really important point, this idea of perception of risk. And, what you said is encouraging about, suppliers signing up to the same terms. And actually what Roy said about the risk factors not being greater in relation to reused steel than they are with new steel. Because I think what needs to be understood and what's really important as a takeaway is that clients, funders, interested third parties, they don't want to accept any sort of change to the warranties that you would usually expect to get around quality and performance of the product. And I think there's an education piece where we need to dispel this idea and this perception that reused steel carries those risks, because if that then translates into contractual positions which are viewed as suboptimal by the market, it's just not going to get the traction that it deserves. And that's critical, I think.
No, and whether it's new or reused, we're supplying it to a specification. So we've talked about that earlier today. And we're quite happy to give warranties the same as everybody else. We'll give warranties against that specification and the compliance with that specification. No greater risk. We deal with that risk within the testing and the provenance and the certification that the materials come to us from the suppliers like Bill and Roy.